All right, we will be giving away the tickets later on here at the end of Pizza with the Pros. So hang in there, 2 tickets to the game on December 8th. Not bad, huh? Not bad.
Get me in there.
Yeah. So, all right, let's welcome Larry Nito here today. So Larry, hang on a sec. All right, so Larry is executive. What, you don't like the headshot?
Not the best.
You look good.
You think?
I think so.
Executive Director, PHL Sports, which is a division of the Philadelphia Conference and Visitors Bureau. We'll talk about that. I did play a significant role initially in the securing of the bid for the World Cup for 2026. All right, and also, look, he's been involved for 30 years now of attracting major sports events here to the Philadelphia region. Including the Army-Navy game, All-Star games, NCAA events. WrestleMania was another one. We were just talking about another one. What did you just say a moment ago? You just said another one. Oh, the draft, the NFL draft. NFL draft. There's another one. So just a lot. And PHL Sports used to be known as the Philadelphia Sports Congress, and that's where you began in 1991.
1991.
Wow.
That's when you said you must have been 10.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
That's exactly right. Well, have a seat. I was asking you before if you have been to Rowan's campus before, and you said
Yeah,
a
but
while
it's been a
ago.
while.
A while ago. Well, okay. So, what's your impression? What do you think?
Well, it was dark, so I didn't get the full effect.
But you were surprised
Right.
when I told you.
How big it is. Yeah, 23,000 students.
Yeah.
Is amazing.
17,000 undergrad. So it's definitely a larger school than most people think. So where'd you go to college?
I went to UNC.
UNC.
Chapel Hill.
So where'd you grow up?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. So Baltimore, UNC. How did you end up in Philadelphia?
Let's say senior year was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. A family friend was connected with an organization called Maccabi USA, which, if people have heard of the Maccabi Games, it's the organization that helps send the U.S. delegation of Jewish athletes to Israel. So the Maccabi Games is one of the world's biggest events. They've got about 10,000 athletes, all Jewish. They were looking for a new communications director in Philadelphia. One thing led to another, and here I was in summer of 1988.
And you haven't left.
Have not left. Fell in love with Philly, and then after a couple years over there, started looking around. I remember, if you guys have ever seen this reference book, it's called Sports Marketplace, which is about a 500-page reference book, which I went to the library and checked out. And it's a great way to figure out different sports-related organizations that exist across the country. And part of it is broken down geographically. And I knew I wanted to either stay in Philly or go to Baltimore or go back to Chapel Hill. And you were able to figure it out that way. And that it's still a reference book because we still get it at the office. And it really also kind of helps shed the light on all the different organizations, companies that are doing sponsorships, leagues, sports leagues, just things that you may or may not know are out there. And I happened to see something that said the Philadelphia Sports Congress in there. Sent them a letter. People have probably never heard of one of those, but sent a letter. There was an email at the time. And literally a few months later, got a response and ended up starting there in 1991. And they haven't gotten rid of me.
So you mentioned Maccabi, the Maccabi Games, but Maccabi Media, Sam Prince in the back, just went to London this past summer for Maccabi Media. We had another student,
Nice.
Aaron Hook, who graduated in May, was with Maccabi Media when he went to Argentina a year ago. So some of our students have been involved in Maccabi Media, which is new in the last, 2 years. They've been doing this program
Nice.
with Mark Zumoff and another gentleman by the name of Neil Slotkin who are involved. So
Yeah, that's great.
Great opportunity and great, right? Good experience, Sam?
Great experience.
Great experience?
I'll bet.
There you go.
Good
Beautiful. All right. Let's talk about what PHL Sports does.
So we are basically the sports commission for Philadelphia. So if you've heard of sports commissions, it's organizations around the country that work to bring sports events and activity to their communities for economic development and supporting quality of life. So back in the day, in the early 90s, when the group of us would get together to compare notes from different cities, there were maybe 2 or 3 dozen of us. Now, when you go to what's called the Sports ETA convention, Sports Entertainment and Travel Association, used to be the National Association of Sports Commissions, you'll have literally 1,200 people there because people have recognized the impact and the benefit of hosting sporting events in your community. And it's all the things you would imagine, certainly from the CVB, as Neil said, we're part of the Convention Bureau. So we're very focused on filling hotel rooms. Certainly the national exposure that events bring to your city, the tax dollars that these events generate in many different ways. And look, at quality of life. We want to be able to bring events to the city that the community will embrace and be excited about and make people want to either stay in Philadelphia, move to Philadelphia. So we're always thinking about, all right, what events would people really be excited about? And hopefully we're going after the right ones.
Would you classify yourself as an event planner, a marketer? What are you?
Probably, I hate to say it because it's kind of pejorative, but I'm probably a salesman first / facilitator. Our job is really just to connect the dots with folks. That's what we're always doing. So whether it's a university, whether it's a venue, whether it's a pro team, whether it's the city and the state, our job is to be connecting the dots so we can say, all right, well, what do we think? This event could work well in one of these venues, but we need, this team to support it. Let's say it's the MLB All-Star game. So we need to be doing that hand in hand with the Phillies, of course. And it's a question of timing and facilitation and patience, I'd say, because a lot of these things end up being kind of years in the making. And sometimes first time through, you're not going to get it. And then you need to, try again. WrestleMania, we had conversations with them over 15 years, maybe more. But then finally, we were able to kind of find some dollars to support it and get the venues lined up because it was both at the Link and the Wells Fargo Center and the Convention Center over 5 or 6 days. And kind of the stars aligned and we were able to get it done. But, what people don't see are all of the kind of no thank yous or losses along the way. And, the wins wouldn't feel so good if the losses don't hurt so bad, is what we always say to my boys.
What's the biggest one that got away?
I would have to say it's this most recent iteration of the Army-Navy RFP, the Army-Navy game, because we've done that for years and years. And I've probably, been involved with 24 of them or more over my 30 years. And the academies decided out of COVID, that they wanted to move the game around more. They were getting pressure from their sponsors. And, even other cities, kind of political leadership was talking to the academies. And they decided to move it around, and we only, traditionally we would get 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, and we're the traditional home. And last time we just got 1 out of 5. So we have it in 2027. So we'd like to think absence makes the heart grow fonder, and they're gonna, be eager to return after 27. But time will tell. But that one stung, and still does.
Was it a money thing?
That was a big part of it. You think about other cities. So we went to Boston, New York, D.C., and Baltimore, and Philly. So up and down the East Coast. And, we need to make a financial model work for, let's say, 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5. And the other cities could say, hey, let's just go for it 1 year and put some crazy big offer on the table and do it, even if it's a little bit of a loss leader, just because it's the Army-Navy game and it's a special thing, and I don't blame them. But yes, I think at the end of the day, the dollars were a big piece of it, and something that we need to kind of gear up. We don't think they're going to go to the new RFP until fall of 26. Probably going to let the cities get through the World Cup and all the things that are going on next year in 26. But we're already starting to gear up on finding dollars from the public sector, the private sector, so that we can be really aggressive next time.
Share with them RFP, what RFP stands for.
Request for proposal. So when people are, most event organizers that we're working with are going to have an RFP, a request for proposal, that they're going to send. And in a perfect world, it's got lots of great information. It's got all the venue needs. It's got the hotel patterns and history from previous cities. It's got, any off-site activity and what else goes on around the event, ancillary events, financial considerations, all the things that they're looking for. So the people that have the best, RFPs are the ones that, we kind of like the best.
Who's been to the Army-Navy game? Connor, you're the only one in the room that's been to an Army-Navy game? Wow. When did you go?
I went, I forget the exact year, but I just remember the one play they had. It was Navy recreating the Philly Special, and I don't remember what year it was. I think it was 2019.
Okay.
But I got tickets because my dad worked with a former Navy veteran, and he gave us tickets to go see the game. So that was my first ever college football game. Very cool moment to be a part of something very special.
I would have to say, it is definitely, I'll put any playoff game, I'll put a lot of things up against the Army-Navy game. To me, it's a top 3 event in this city. Top 3 event. If you have not gone, when it comes back in 27, go to the Army-Navy game. I've gone so many times. I brought my kids there. It's unbelievable. You feel very proud to be an American, number one.
Yeah.
And then the game sometimes, like I'm thinking the last time I was there, was that the game when they won on the field goal? I was at that game. Was that the
Yes.
last time? That was a couple of years
It
ago.
was.
All right, so I was at that game. I was in an Army box, and they were very happy because Army won that game. So I just encourage you all to consider going to the Army-Navy game. All right, so now you got a sense of what Larry does. Who'd like to go with the first question? Go ahead, Gerasimus.
I have to talk about the World Cup.
Okay.
First off, thank you for your help with that. I'm very excited to go to one of those games in the future.
Good luck getting tickets, Gerasimus.
Right.
Yes, fair point. Fair point. It's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna try my best.
All right.
So with the World Cup, obviously, I'm sure it took a lot of conversations with FIFA and convincing, of course. So how were those conversations? How much convincing do you think that took? Because I know Philly got, I don't know if you played a part in this, but I know Philly had the Premier League Fan Fest a few years ago as well. But like, how was this tougher to get? And just because I'm curious, did the union help at all, the Philadelphia Union?
Yeah, the union did help. They were involved from the beginning. We wanted to make sure that we had people from the soccer community who spoke that language, because a lot of us aren't soccer people necessarily. So it's important to kind of have that connection. We also had the folks from Eastern Pennsylvania Youth Soccer have been very involved and very helpful throughout. But it was what you would expect. I mean, this thing started back in 2017 and then wasn't awarded for about 5 years after that. So it was a long time in the making. I was mentioning to Neil, we were literally had just finished the NFL draft in that spring when this showed up at the doorstep. So the timing was pretty good. We were kind of ready for the next big thing. And I would say, yeah, it took some convincing over lots of site visits and meetings and Zooms, over that window, as you would imagine. Because Philadelphia, while lots of people in the U.S. know it, have a feel for it, maybe have attended events here, maybe a decent amount of the folks from FIFA or from others who were involved internationally maybe didn't. So there was kind of a blank slate. And the beauty is that once they see our stadium, for example, like the Link is so highly regarded. And the fact that it's grass, they love. Lots of places we know don't have grass pitches anymore. They do such a great job maintaining that field. Their staff, whether it's Army Navy or NCAA lacrosse or a lot of the other things that they host down there, do a phenomenal job and have just a great reputation. So having that stadium was huge. Philadelphia just shows really well, So when you think about the whole event package that we're able to deliver, big events, first of all, the footprint is so tight, right? The airport's 8 miles away, the train station's right here, the convention center, the sports complex is, just in South Philly, inside city limits. We have so many, the fourth largest media market, so many things that we can offer. And then you think about lots of other cities like, oh man, in LA, to get to the stadium, you're in traffic for, you're driving an hour. And Dallas. And, so when you think about the competition, Boston is in Foxborough. So we've got just this great package that people can feel the energy of an event here, I think, the way very few other cities can. So that's one of the real benefits that we bring. When it's Army Navy here, you see the cadets in the mids walking down the street, and we've got those street banners up, and we've got the digital signage, and you feel it. And if an event is in LA or New York or lots of other cities that are more spread out, you kind of lose that. So all that to say that, yes, it was a long time in the making. I will say that our team at the CVB and then the larger team that included the city and eventually the people at Philadelphia Soccer 2026, who's really running the day-to-day now, everybody did such a great job and is so positive. And I think, when they go to New York or LA, sometimes you don't get the customer service that I'd like to think we deliver. I think we recognize that maybe we need to work a little harder because people aren't just coming to Philly because we're Philly, like they are some of those other cities. So we know we've got to work that much harder and go the extra mile and do all those things to make it special. And, the good news was, when we stood there, when they had that announcement show, if you remember, and we were out, we had a watch party out in Love Park. And literally, they didn't tell cities in advance. So we were taking a big risk doing a watch party because imagine if we were all standing there and it was, Boston, DC, and Baltimore, and they missed us. But we had a good feeling. Things have been going really well, and we decided we're all in, and we're going to do it. And they called our name, and it was pretty damn exciting. So
It's exciting.
it's going to be great. A lot of it will plan, of course. I think the coolest parts of something like the World Cup are going to be the parts we don't plan, because you're going to have all these different countries. We're going to have 6 different matches over about 6 weeks, ending on July 4th. So during that window, we won't find out who the countries are until December of next year. So, then it's going to be a mad sprint, because you're really going to want to kind of focus on those markets and figure out what what those cultures like or don't like, or make the connection with the community to those different countries. And, that's going to be really fun. But then you're literally going to have, we think, hundreds of thousands of fans. The estimate is at least 400,000 fans coming to Philadelphia during that window from all over the world, whether they're expats in the US or people literally making the trip from those countries, and all the stuff that's going to happen in the communities and at the bars and the parties. And, that's going to be such a cool thing that I think we're just not used to. I think it's really kind of a special cultural event that has nothing to do with the soccer itself. It's about kind of celebrating your country and that patriotism that everybody has. And I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
Go ahead, Alan, in the back.
Yeah, so obviously the World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world. When did you start to get a good feeling that, hey, they might actually want to host a game here?
I'd say it was probably at least a year or two in. I'd say they held their cards pretty close to the vest during, when we had when we were going through the back and forth and the process with them. And again, COVID kind of got in the middle of that, and that kind of slowed things down a bit. But, I think probably, 18 months or 2 years in, we started to hear good things. And once in a while, there would be articles that would be written by national soccer people who were trying to guess who was going to end up hosting. And we tended to hear good things kind of through the grapevine unofficially about Philadelphia. So organized, doing a good job. They like being at the link. They like the idea of having a hub. So imagine, now there's going to be games in Foxborough, in New York, and in Philly, not in DC. So, or Baltimore. But so you've got this hub, and that's one of the things that we were really pitching. And think about how Amtrak is just going to go crazy during that window. So yeah, we started hearing good things, and thankfully they were true. So
Pretty good moment for sure. All right, in the back.
Sure.
Yep.
2026, the All-Star Game is the 250th anniversary of the nation. Was that planned at all, or did it just fall like that?
It was David Montgomery. I don't know if you guys know David's name, who was president of the Phillies for so many years and was our chairman at PHL Sports for about 10 years, and one of the most amazing people who's ever walked on the earth, I think is fair to say. The Phillies had hosted in '76 during the bicentennial. They had hosted in '96, kind of coincidentally. But, we had talked for years, David, they could have had it much sooner because, go through, they rotate through the different teams. But David at one point said to the commissioner that he wanted us to host it in 26. So, after a lot of back and forth, because, they're used to doing things kind of in certain rotation and usually only awarded a couple years out. Unfortunately, David developed cancer going back a number of years, and the commissioner was good enough. Everybody wanted to make this announcement while David was still with us. And it's now been 5 years. I believe it was 2019, if I'm not mistaken, in the spring that we lost David. And this was, I want to say, March or April of 2019 that the commissioner came down and we were in front of Independence Hall and they announced that Philadelphia would host the All-Star game. So that's, what we're saying, we're going to be the center of the sports universe for that summer, because the fact that we're going to go from World Cup, so our last World Cup match will be July 4th, and then the All-Star festivities, the actual All-Star game is the 14th, and all the festive home run derbies the 13th, the Fan Fest at the Convention Center starts on the 10th or the 11th. So think about it. And then the last World Cup, the final for the World Cup will be July 19th. So even though that's going to be up in New York, but we're going to have a Fan Fest going on at Lemon Hill in Philly. So every time there's a match and lots of non-match times, you're going to be able to go, watch the matches at Lemon Hill. So that's going to overlap. You're still going to have a lot of those World Cup fans, we think, will be in town, even when baseball's happening. So we think it's going to be crazy, but amazing is the idea.
July of 2026, pretty fun. Wow, got a lot of people. Sean, go ahead. You haven't gotten one. Go ahead.
I got so March Madness is coming up.
Yeah.
So has Philly ever hosted a Final Four?
Great question. We did back in '76. We had Indiana, North Carolina, right? They beat my Tar Heels.
They did.
But in the last, 20 years, I don't even know what the number is, but they've really gone to domes and big stadiums with a roof. So we had the women's Final Four, you remember, back in 2000, but the men's Final Four wants at least 40,000 seats, and we just don't have anything to offer for that right now. So we do have, the men's regional will be here in 26. The women's regional will be here in 27. We just found out a couple months ago. So we'll host those, but until somebody puts a roof on a big stadium, I don't think we're going to see a men's or a women's Final Four.
Is that a final, a regional final in 26?
26 men, I want to say, is first and second
First
rounds.
and second round. Still, that's
Which is
actually,
great.
yeah. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, because then you get 8 teams that come in. And then when we have the women in 27, that's now a super regional, which is like having 2 regionals. So we'll have 2 teams from Philly go to the Final Four.
Oh, wow.
So that will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool. All right, Jeffy.
You know what? I think the Philly sports fans tend to take stuff more to heart when it has to do with our Philadelphia teams. So I'm not as worried that we're not going to be welcoming or we're going to be going too crazy. I think people will be putting country first and be seeing things through that lens. And I think unfortunately, we do hear stories in lots of places when you have countries that have fans that clash. And it's happened just recently. I know Miami had some challenges. Amsterdam just very recently. So, needless to say, security in every city is going to be, massive. It's just going to be a huge operation, just to make sure that people are being smart about how it's being done, and realistically probably having fans on different sides of the stadium that we're not used to doing necessarily in the U.S.
Is that what they'll do at the World Cup?
That's what I expect.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know if it will be every match, but probably to be consistent, they will.
Yeah.
Just because otherwise, right, you're setting yourself up for.
Let them merge. Yeah. All right. Ryan, in the back.
Describe the feeling of WrestleMania in Philadelphia last year because they were in LA the previous year at SoFi and now to Philly. Describe the feeling of that.
Awesome. I don't know if people went to WrestleMania.
Anyone go to
What do you think?
WrestleMania? Look at it. WrestleMania. Okay.
Access, yeah.
We had a few WrestleMania attendees. All right.
What did you think?
It was incredible. Like the production and just seeing it in Philadelphia was like it was in LA the previous year and it just crazy.
So we felt the same way because I would say I didn't really know from WrestleMania. We went in 2017 or 16. We went to New Orleans a few years ago to check it out down there. And you just get blown away by, like you said, the production value. They don't mess around. They spend crazy money and put on this amazing show. And the wrestling is really the least of it. It's all about the show and the production itself. But that ended up being one of the best events we've ever hosted. We had fans from 60 countries represented, every state. It generated, according to WWE's numbers, nearly $200 million economic impact. The tax revenue and the spinoff for Philadelphia was huge. And their social media numbers are insane. They rival the Super Bowl in terms of the activity that they get on social. And the great thing about that event, speaking of the fans, just everybody is just joyous. They're just, I don't know if that was your experience, hopefully, but it's like a brotherhood and everybody just embraces it. Nobody, people have fun with it. If somebody's rooting for the opponent, they'll laugh about it. Everybody's wearing either their belt that they spent $1,000 or more on, and or something with their favorite wrestler. But it was such an experience. It was so cool to see.
All right, Aiden, go ahead.
How close were you guys to getting the 2026 NBA All-Star Game? And also, how does the new stadium for the Sixers possibly impact you?
I would say, despite rumors to the contrary, there was never really a push for NBA. And I think that was because, you had these issues, the Sixers and the folks at Comcast Spectacor were probably at the somewhat early stages of trying to figure out what's going to happen and not, being on the same page about what they were going to do. So I think it never really gained traction. And, it wasn't for us, our job is just kind of to ask. And, they know it's sitting there. And they were getting asked a lot too. So we said, well, let us know if you're ready to bid, because then we're going to help facilitate the bid and the hotels and the city and everything. But so it never did come close to happening. And I think because the schedule is so busy that year, I think that's okay. And it would have been hard for the Wells Fargo Center to have NCAA men's, and just a few weeks before to have NBA All-Star, because they've got the Flyers and the Sixers and they're navigating schedules. So that's tricky. The new arena, I'll just say, if it gets built, it will be a great new venue for us to be able to book. But, you know, as you would imagine, we're kind of Switzerland on that one, because, you know, we love the folks at the Wells Fargo Center and they've been great partners with us. And we hope that everybody can work things out. But so we're just kind of on the sideline, and we will see how that one plays.
Well stated.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Logan.
Has Philadelphia ever tried to go for a Super Bowl?
Not really. Not really. So Super Bowl's tough because it's February and we have an outdoor stadium. So the only time I think in recent memory that they went down that road was when they went to New York, which I believe was really based on 9/11, and they said, we're going to give you a Super Bowl kind of as a tribute, or, you know, in honor of what happened. So I think and when they were in New York, you might remember, they barely got that game in before they had this big ice storm, and a lot of their activations earlier in the week, it was freezing. And just that experience for all of the fans and sponsors and everything that happens around that event, it just frankly works better in a better climate for early February, and we understand that. So,
Or a dome.
Right? You know,
Eagles
so
did play in
Minnesota. What's that?
Eagles did play the Super Bowl.
That's
in
right.
Minnesota, so.
That's right. So yes, or a dome. But I think the idea of doing it in an outdoor city with an outdoor stadium without a roof is probably a bridge too far. Now the good news, and what I'd say, the NFL draft for us was a better version of hosting the Super Bowl in many ways, because it was the end of April. It ended up being a free event that almost 250,000 people were able to go to and experience, unlike the Super Bowl, frankly. And the cost of getting that event here was way less than hosting a Super Bowl. So from our seat, that was a winner. And if we're trying to think of, you know, and that is on our list, we've said to the NFL, we're 100%, you know, want to go back when you guys are ready. And I would say the good news was we kind of got on it early. You know, they had just done Chicago for 2 years, but then we were right after that. So now everybody else says, oh, this looks cool. We want to do this. And we see the impact that it has because it's such an amazing event. So now you've got lots of NFL cities who are lined up. So I think it's still going to be a while, but in my mind, we're better served for Philadelphia to get the draft back.
Very good. Right here. Oh, you want Jason Kelsey? Would you like to talk to Jason Kelsey?
I didn't know Jason. Wow, Jason is everywhere.
So this past weekend, they just announced the stadium series for this upcoming NHL season. It's going to be in the Shoe at Ohio State. Is there any word that it's going to come back to the link?
You know what? I frankly haven't heard anything recently. I do think that's on everybody's radar. You know, it was a great experience when we had that. I guess it was the Penguins Flyers game a couple of years ago. It was huge. So, you know, it's funny. in what we do, some events we're very involved in, frankly, from the beginning. Others tend to be more venue deals, right? Like for an event like that, outside of that, they'll probably need us for some hotel support and other things. But the reality is, to book that, the Flyers and the Eagles can kind of figure, or for that matter, Citizens Bank, depending on time of year, just like they did the Winter Classic back in the day. So I would say I don't have a great answer for you for Stadium Series, but it could happen, and we might not even be in the middle of it.
Mason, go ahead. Luke, go ahead, help him out.
If I can go back to the Army-Navy game, having obviously all the midshipmen and cadets in the city, as well as usually political and government, officials, sometimes the president, what extra planning goes into, having those notable people as well as a big game and usually a sold-out stadium?
A lot. And I'd say, again, we have about 6 or 7 kind of executive committee meetings, steering committee meetings that lead up, in the year that we're hosting Army Navy. Well, we usually now have 2 kind of massive planning meetings at the stadium where we'll have 150 people there. And, you'll have every different kind of law enforcement agency and the caterer and the parking people and, everything you could imagine. But again, a lot of that stuff, thankfully, happens without us even being in the room, especially the security stuff. Those guys are so locked down, and the academies and Philly police and the state police and the fire department and EMS, and by the way, Secret Service, of course, who comes in. So that's always the trick, because sometimes you don't know until 10 days out, maybe a little more, if the president is coming. And then if so, plans that are in place could suddenly get turned on their head. And Secret Service is only focused on keeping the president and keep people safe, and is not as concerned about your sponsor activation that was supposed to be in that lobby, or 10 other movements that you had planned for that day. Yes, there's a million different things that have to happen for that event, and it's so cool to see them all come together, and especially with the military folks who are so good at organizing that stuff. And we're just glad, our job again is to kind of be a facilitator and make sure the right people are talking to each other, and then we just kind of stand aside.
Let's bring the Army Navy back. Come on, let's bring it
We're
back.
on it.
Bring it back. I want it back.
You're here.
Mason, how are we doing?
Yeah, I remember.
You remember? All right, let's do it.
Yeah, how many years out do you look at planning on this?
Ooh.
Yeah, it varies, but I'd say usually it's at least 3 or 4. And I'd say because most of the stuff we're going after is pretty big, because we have such a crowded sports calendar, and we have, some limited staff and resources. So we're kind of making sure that whatever we're going after is going to be really impactful. So, we're lucky in that way that we get to be picky and go after the big stuff. But as a result, they're usually, that award process is 3 or 4 years out. So we just found out that we got, 4 different NCAA championships for 2027 and 28. So that just happened this year. We just got awarded a USA Volleyball Girls Junior National Championship for 28. So that's usually, I'd say, the window that we're working in.
All right, so Super Bowl is number one, and that's the crown jewel, correct? If a city wants to go after the biggest of biggest, it's the Super Bowl. Okay, true?
Well, World Cup is going to be
Okay, World Cup is
Bigger.
right there.
Yeah, that's right.
World Cup's
Yeah.
right there. Okay, World Cup. All right, what's like 3, 4, 5? WrestleMania up there.
yeah. It is
WrestleMania's
now.
up there. All
WrestleMania's
right.
the top
What else?
five
What else?
event.
What are a couple events that maybe we're not thinking of that would like we get that?
Well, I mean, you could have the Olympic conversation.
Have we had the Olympic conversation in
We
Philadelphia?
have had it. And I do think that Philadelphia could, under the right set of circumstances, be a great host city, just for all the reasons we said. But it's become so challenging for cities, and the dollars involved are so massive that it tends to now go to countries where the federal government just throws billions of dollars at hosting. And you saw that Boston was awarded it for 28 originally, and then the politics got so nasty and people were so nervous about the money and everything involved that they punted and it went back to LA, who's done it before. So,
Could you
again,
see
now we
Philip-
have Comcast too, let's remember. So if Comcast leadership said, you know what, we're NBC, we are home of the Olympics, we want to bring the Olympics here, I would say that could then take you potentially down that road to getting it done, and could be transformative in a way that very few other things could for a city. But during that window of 7 years, from the time you're awarded until the time you host, you'd have to navigate a whole heck of a lot. Construction and a million things to get there. And, some people say it becomes so cost prohibitive for cities that maybe you should just be in 3 or 4 cities internationally that have done it, that could do it again. And, it's just too much to bear. So I don't know. I don't think it's on our radar. It's not something that we're going to really be championing, because I think that's it's going to be hard to get the political will behind that one. But that's one of the big ones.
I would agree. All right, go ahead, Sam. By the way, let me just say something. Everybody, thank Sam all season, all semester long, taking care of the pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam.
Even at a post pizza.
Thank you, Sam. So they're and Sam's very close to all the people there at Chickies and Pete's on Bowling Boulevard.
Nice.
But not
Yeah.
much this year.
Okay.
We were working so to get that
All right.
relationship back. But last semester, with the same crew, we had those daily conversations.
There you
But
go.
You mentioned the NFL draft. What was the process like bidding for the NFL draft? Because Chicago hosted it for 2 years, and it was in New York for years and years and years, and then the NFL moves all of a sudden to Chicago. We thought that was going to be a permanent home, but then the draft down the road, it's become this. The draft show, location, and everything is bigger than what the draft is now. It's everything.
So, yeah, I can't remember. I think we got like a little short RFP from the NFL that the Eagles sent to us and said, hey, take a look at this. What do you think? And at that point, maybe they had been in Chicago 1 year or were getting ready to be in Chicago. And then the NFL invited interested cities to go out to Chicago to check it out. So it was in Grand Park. So we went out and saw, how they built this amazing, structure and had thousands of people there and just the energy around it, and, jerseys from every NFL team represented. So we knew we were excited to do it. And they said, give us write in, I don't know, 1,000 words your vision of what this thing would look like. So we focused on the Rocky Steps and the idea that you would be on the steps and what that symbolized, not just the grandeur of it and the beauty shot of it, but what that symbolized as each of these athletes is realizing their Rocky moment and being, realizing their childhood dream and to be able to do it there. So I think that helped immensely. And then when the NFL came to town and we walked up on those steps and showed that to them, it sells itself. So that was huge, and we got the city on board and the Eagles certainly, and were able to get that done. But I would say that was about the NFL, and they're no dummies, and they know good TV when they see it. And when they saw those Rocky Steps, that was too much to pass.
Did anyone go to that draft? You guys went to the draft? Good time?
Oh, it was
Yes?
awesome. It was
Fun?
awesome. Yeah.
Fun time? All right, Leo, what's your question?
Why stay in Philly? Was there any
Why does he? Why
Yeah,
would
why-
he?
why do you stay
Why
in
would he
Philly?
stay here?
Yeah.
Why did you go run the Charlotte one?
You know what? We've got a good thing going. I'd say it's a job that has lots of autonomy. I'm able to kind of do my thing. We've got a staff. We've got about 3 people on the sports team, and we're part of about 50 people at the CVB, just to give you an idea. But, and I happened to meet my wife-to-be the day I showed up at the office. So she was working in the tourism division, and we ended up so that was January of 91, and we got engaged September of 92. So that's probably the main reason. And then we had our first child in 97. So there you go.
Little love story going on here.
Very,
All right.
very discreet.
All
Very
right,
discreet.
all right. Go ahead.
So, my main question is, when you go to pitch events to certain organizations that are looking for host cities, when the event changes in scale, obviously the Olympics or the World Cup are a multinational level event. So I imagine the sales pitch is different between the lower, smaller, more local or national level events versus events like that. So can you kind of talk us through the couple tiers of size, you would say, and how you would pitch to them specifically?
Sure. Look, I do think our foundational package kind of is what it is. It's our venues, it's our infrastructure, it's our hotel package, it's our attractions, it's all those things that I talked about. So then, to your point, it's a question of kind of making the dollars work and how much we're in a position to invest. So we'll go out and reach out to our partners in the community to make that work. So World Cup is such a unique animal. It's literally a 9-figure ask, the budget. So that's been in the works. If you can do the math on that, it's over $100 million. So, that's involved lots of fundraising from the private sector. The nice thing is, because it's the World Cup, everybody wants to be involved, and it's a once in a generation kind of thing. So you're able to get there. But it's not easy. We don't have a sports authority the way some cities do, like New Jersey as their sports authority. So they've got a big pot of money that comes from that stadium that they're able to tap into to go after big events. We have to be a little more nimble. We're going to the state, who now thankfully has a grant fund to go towards hosting events. We go to the city. but everybody's kind of limited what we can do. We go to the hotels. So thankfully, just about 5 or 6 years ago, the hotels created a bid fund. So they'll take 75 cents off of every room night sold, put it in a big pot. It's called the Philadelphia Hospitality Investment Levy, the PHIL. And then the Bureau is able to apply for those funds to help support going after those events, to help the budget. So every event is very different, but we're always trying to figure out making the budget work and going in and finding the dollars.
Let me end on this note. Internships. So give them an idea of college age students interested in, learning, getting that experimental learning in your environment, your world. What recommendation would you give to them?
Well, I was in sports information at North Carolina, now called media relations. And I was running stats to Roy Williams and Dean Smith back in the day. So that's how I kind of got into the sports universe, was kind of working in the athletic department and being a grunt. And, my son was a 4-year manager at South Carolina men's basketball. So, he was wiping the floor and doing that. And now he's a grad assistant at Temple men's basketball, as he's kind of trying to work his way up. But so, yeah, I would say as many things as you're able to do, whether it's an internship, sometimes maybe even volunteering for an event, so you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like and the behind the scenes, I think is helpful, and it goes on, will add to your resume.
Are there volunteers for World Cup?
There will be. So I can get you that information. I can find you the right person.
Let me know, and then I'll share it with them. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think what the next, when we have Club World Cup next summer, there are probably going to be some opportunities there. But, it tends to be the bigger ones where they really need folks. Even if it's, certainly things that happen around here with the athletic department or other communications.
And coming to Pizza with the Pros and hearing people like you, right?
Whatever works.
That was fascinating. I mean, I hope everyone appreciated that. That's an inside look at how Philadelphia lands some of these big events. It was very fascinating. So I want to thank Larry and Nito for being here. Larry, you gotta bring it down. So what we're gonna do now? Now we're gonna give away.
To raffle them up.
We're gonna get some tickets away.
Don't do it yet. Don't do it
There
yet.
I am! I can't even fit my whole name on there.
Yes.
We gotta be shooting video on this.
I got it.
Shoot video on this. Someone's gonna win.
I got it.
You gotta get the thing here, where, and then you get the where. Who's got it?
I got it.
Let's see all you get it to. Here we go. All right, so what do?
You just click it.
I just click it?
Click it.
Are we ready?
Oh man, big money.
Click this.
Big money.
Right here.
Just click.
Here we go!
Oh my god, oh, it's glitching.
It's gonna stop. Who's the big winner?
Thank you.
Who found the big winner? 2 tickets to an Eagles game on December 8th.
Yes, go Birds!
Courtesy of Aaron Hodges and the Eagles.
Go Birds!
Thank you for a great semester. We'll see you back here end of January, early February. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you, Larry Needle. Thanks, Needle. Go Birds! Wow. Go Birds!